I wrote You on Your Own. It was self-published. It's a self-motivational book. The highlight of the material is basically to tell the reader that he should have control over his life. You are the one who can best decide how your life can be. My formative years was all about the training and the hard work and the vision and little of the comforts and the luxury. Accra is a wonderful place to be. The people themselves, the environment itself, the culture of Accra is beautiful. We have our challenges. I want to be that young person who changed things. I like to see a lot of change. I appreciate growth a lot.
Hello, Africa. You're listening to 1000 African Voices. I'm your host, Aburengwi C, coming to you from our Johannesburg studios. 1000 African Voices is a program that profiles Africans of diverse cultures who have traveled and lived across the African continent and the world. In this series, we will collect and share stories from all parts of Africa. Welcome.
1000 African Voices.
Today we're joined by a very special guest who will shortly introduce himself to the listeners of 1000 African Voices. Hello, Patrick.
Yeah, hello, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, by God's grace. And yourself?
No, I'm doing really well, and I'm very glad to be talking to you. So your full name is Patrick. Is Patrick Fynn? Is it Bondzi?
Yes, Patrick Bondzi Fynn.
Patrick Bondzi Fynn. Maybe just introduce yourself to our listeners. Who is Patrick Bondzi Fynn? What's your background and what is it that you do?
I'm Ghanaian. I'm in my 20s. I do a couple of things. I practice medicine. I write. I'm a youth leader. And I like to refer to myself as a hardworking young man.
Okay, cool. Patrick, when I go on your profile, the thing that stands out, there's actually a few things, but I see you've written a book called You Are On Your Own, Inspirations to Self-Drive Your Life to Success. What's that book about?
So I wrote You On Your Own. It was self-published 2 years ago. Like you know, it's a self-motivational book. The highlight of the material is basically to tell the reader that he should have control over his life. You are the one who can best decide how your life can be. And people should be as self-reliant and as independent as they can. People should not rely on other people for the success of their lives. People should know how to drive their own life the way they want it. That is basically how the book is about. And it has done quite well on the market. Won me a couple of awards as well.
Okay, let's maybe talk a bit about some of those awards. For someone who's relatively young, where do you get, suppose, the inspiration to not only think of writing a book like that, but also executing on your thoughts and say, I'm going to write a book on inspiration? Maybe talk to us about the awards as well as the inspiration for the book.
So the inspiration, first of all, I do a lot of visualization and a lot of imaging. Whenever I sit down, I like to think about how my next second is going to be like. I like to visualize how my tomorrow will look like. I do that a lot. So once the picture is clear, executing it isn't a big deal. The book itself, personally, I was inspired when I worked on a couple of projects. I thought I could rely on people, or I thought people could do, as I would do for them, for me. Eventually getting disappointed and realizing that whenever I step in myself to do it my way, things get better. So I thought, yes, this is quite a principle of life, and that nobody can do anything better than the person who is doing it himself. Somewhere in the book, I wrote that you are the top character of a movie called Your Life. You are the one who is starring in your own life as a movie, which means that anybody else is a supporting character. So that has been the drive. And I realized that whenever I apply these things in my life myself, it works. The awards have been quite a lot. There is the National Student Awards. I got Student Author of the Year. At the time when I wrote the book, I was a student, or I was about to leave school. So I won Student Author of the Year with the award. And then there has been Discovery of the Year from the African Youth Awards. I got a nomination. I also got a nomination at the Ghana Tertiary Awards. A couple of them came through.
All right. I think at this point, my mind is wondering how you got to where you are right now. So we're talking to you now. You are in Accra, but maybe let's go back.
Yes, Accra, Ghana.
20 years ago when you were born. Where did you grow up? And what are some of the things you remember from your early childhood?
I come from a very humble background. I live with my family here in Accra. We came from a town called Suhum in the eastern region of Ghana, where I was born and bred. From the formative years of my childhood, we've lived in the family house, extended family house. So it has been quite a difficulty for my nuclear family or my parents because of a lot of financial instability. You know how it is for a lot of folks in Ghana here. My family is a middle income one. We are not very rich, let me use the word.
Yeah.
And so my formative years was all about the training and the hard work and the vision and little of the comforts and the luxury. And so my father and my mom teach us to always work hard for the things we want. They encourage us that life is more about the future than the present, because of course our present wasn't beautiful enough. So they gave us hope in a certain tomorrow and enabled us to work on our future in the way that will make it better than how our today is. So it has been all about the discipline for me. My parents have always brought us up in godliness, in fear, in hard work, to respect the family structure.
And the schools that you went to, Patrick, maybe from primary school, you can just talk to us about that and maybe all the way to what you studied at a tertiary level. Can you maybe let's go back to when you began studying. Which schools did you go to, and what are maybe some of the things you remember from those times?
I did my basic education here in Accra in a school called Confidence Academy. That's where all my siblings have also been to. So I finished my basic education in around 2005. And then I proceeded to my secondary school where I had my secondary education. I read science. I should say that my life in secondary school was where I built what I am today. In secondary school, I did a lot. I did a lot in academics. I did a lot in leadership. I did a lot in extracurricular activities. So I caught myself in secondary school. So by the time I had left school, I think I was ready for the world. After secondary school, I proceeded to tertiary school, where I read community medicine in University College of Health in a town called Kintampo in Ghana here. And then after secondary school, tertiary school, I became a medical practitioner and then started work.
Okay, and that's the work that you've really been involved in. I do believe as well that not only have you authored the book, you're on your own, but you continue to write articles on health matters. Do you maybe want to talk to us about that? What are some of the things that you write about on a regular basis?
I write about a lot. I don't make myself a niche blogger or a niche writer. I try as much as possible to open up my wings in the writing contest. So I write about health, I write about travel, I write about my personal experience, I write about entertainment, I write about music, I write about anything I am a part of, anything I can find myself, anything I have an opinion on, social issues, typical of them. In fact, just yesterday, I did a story about teenage pregnancy and a couple of others. It's all about interest. It's all about relevance. It's all about what I want to impact another person with. I used to have a health blog called Medical Practitioners. We stopped running about a year ago because I didn't have time. I didn't have a team to run it. So on Medical Practitioners, what we do is basically like what you do in the consulting room with a doctor, where we advise people on how to do healthy living. We listen to their complaints and we make recommendations to them. And we do daily health education, daily health posts. It was amazing. The impact was big, but we couldn't sustain it because of, a lot of things we have to do now.
Okay. Patrick, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking? What's your age in 2018?
I was 26 in June.
Okay. I mean, at 26, the kind of things you've covered have been quite considerable, from blogging, writing books. So it's quite clear for me to see how you, at this early stage of your life, relatively speaking, you're already an award-winning author. We're going to maybe switch gears a bit. I'm interested, as always, to maybe understand Ghanaian culture a bit more. So you are staying in Accra. So what are some of the cultural issues that come to mind when you think of Accra? So for those of us who've never been to Accra, how would you describe your city?
I can see Accra is a place of many things. Accra is a wonderful place to be. People like yourself should try and make a visit to Accra here. The people themselves, the environment itself, the culture of Accra is beautiful. We have our challenges. There are issues of filth in some places. There are issues of poor structure. There are issues of poor planning in some parts of Accra. However, in its totality, it's a wonderful place to be. We are able to work in Accra with a lot of safety, without fear of harm. The people, like I said, are amazing. How we love each other in the country here, how another person looks out for the other is amazing. When you walk into a typical Accra scenery, you would realize there's quite a beauty in the area, a lot of exchanges, a lot of, people interacting and going about their normal businesses, and you realize that it's a place to be. If we have our leaders looking at developing the place, we should be having a lot of attractions to the place.
I think, part of what he's saying now explains why we tend to view Ghana as a whole as a very peaceful nation. And it's something that has fascinated me for the longest time. Because when I look at where you are located, so Ghana is primarily English speaking, but around you, the countries that surround you, they are Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, Togo, Benin to the east of that. Those are French speaking nations. So I've always been fascinated by how Ghana became an English speaking nation locked by the other French speaking countries. So as I said, that's really just a fascination on my side, that I've always wondered why you, as a people, very, very peaceful. And what you're saying now is that you watch each other's backs and you recognize that amongst other Ghanaians, it's in your interest to protect your fellow citizens. So
Exactly.
Thank you for taking us through that. And maybe just some of the tourist attractions around not only Accra, but Ghana as a whole. What are some of the things that if I come to Ghana, I must definitely go see?
So it happens that there are 10 administrative regions in Ghana here. And it happens that for every region you find yourself, there are amazing things for you to catch up with. The list is endless, and we may have to take them region by region or town by town. Each region has something that is fascinating about it. We can mention the Kakum National Park. We can mention the various waterfalls. There are plenty of waterfalls around the country. We can mention the forest reserves. We can mention the animal parks. We can mention the buildings in Accra. We can mention a lot of things from the northern region to the southern region. So many things to fascinate you.
All right. I will definitely be sure to continue to promote tourism into Ghana, as well as to promote tourism to all parts of Africa, because I truly believe that as Africans, for us to get to understand who we are, we need to travel, go to Burkina Faso, go to Ethiopia, understand what makes Kenyans different from Ugandans, because after all of that, you realize that we are one people. We have our subcultures, but at the core of it, we are just Africans. So yeah, Patrick, thank you for taking us through that.
Sure.
There must be something that you do besides writing. I do know that you've got an NGO that you run. What's the NGO about, and what are your focus areas?
Yes, so like I told you, I'm a physician, and I have an NGO called Standout Care. So I realized that as a physician, there are lots of patients I see who could have prevented themselves from falling into the complications they find themselves. For instance, people have got crisis, people have got complications, people come to the hospital at very awkward times because their cases are very bad. So I said, okay, how about we enable people to prevent the complications they are in? Or how about we help people detect diseases early? And then also I realized that there are a group of people in this country who do not have access to healthcare because of their status or because of their circumstances. People like orphanages, people like prisoners, people like street children. So I put together a team of health professionals and we set up the organization called Standout Care. Standout Care basically provides free community medical outreach programs to these people. And so we organize ourselves and go to the remote communities, we go to the prison units, we look at the street children, we also do organized groups, and we provide public health screening, we do mobile clinic sessions for them, first aid, health promotion, health education, and the likes. We've been running for 2 years.
And how has it been going so far? I mean, in terms of funding, particularly, I know that for most NGOs, funding is always an issue. How has that been going on your end?
By way of impact, I think that where we are now was never thought of. We've come far. In a year, we have grown. But for funding, it's been zero. We've not had any support so far. Everything has been personally funded, sometimes from team members' contributions. It has been discouraging, but because we know what we want to achieve and because we are on a mission, we try hard. So funding, there have been no external support so far. It has been just from personal savings.
Why do you think that is the case? Why are you not receiving funding? And added to that, what do you think you'll be able to achieve with a bit more money?
Why we don't have funding? This is a question for the gods. It baffles me sometimes. First of all, I think that we are in quite some crisis. It is not just my organization, but other NGOs are struggling. I think things are getting tougher by the day for philanthropists and donors and interested groups. I also feel that people who have done these kind of NGOs in the past have not been very honest or have not been very sincere or have not been result oriented or have not lived up to task. So people like myself who have done this job before have quite discouraged investors and donors. Sometimes I'm made to believe this thing.
So the people that help, you say it's self-funded, but
yes, self-funded.
You then need to generate your own income. Do you find that you make enough money personally to be able to still contribute to the NGO? Or are you stretching yourself personally just so that you can make the NGO work?
Not at all. I don't think I'm making enough to support my NGO because I don't earn $1,000 million a month. So yes, it's a stretch for me. Sometimes I have to run extra clinical shifts because I have to take care of myself as a person and take care of my NGO. So yes, it's a big stretch for me, but it comes with a certain amount of excitement, knowing that you are struggling for a greater good. You know how that feels.
And yeah, hopefully, I'm sort of hoping as we're speaking now that someone out there will be listening and they will see the value of the work that you're doing, because as I always say on this show, Africa needs more people like yourself, Patrick. So I'm hoping that someone out there will be listening and they'll be interested in understanding more about the work that you do, and hopefully there will be some funding coming your way. So we do encourage our listeners, those that can, if you believe in the cause, get in touch with Patrick, and we will definitely put Patrick's contact details on our website, 1000africanvoices.com. So I suppose, Patrick, we can really only wish you well, but beyond the well wishes, we do hope that there will be some injection of funds into your project.
Absolutely.
It really does sound like the wonderful work that you're doing.
Great.
Maybe
Thank you.
You're then the right person to ask about the youth of Ghana. As an outsider myself, when I think Ghana, I usually think about football, because your country has done really well in that space. But when we set that aside, how would you sort of describe the typical young Ghanaian? What are some of the things that impact a young person in Ghana, whether it's a positive impact or negative?
I am wondering why you started with football. But yes, first of all, the typical Ghanaian is a football fanatic. Unfortunately, I'm not one. I don't watch football, or I don't follow football so much. But a typical Ghanaian likes to be entertained a lot. They have a lot of frenzy they want to grab from entertainment and football and all of that. Apart from that, the average Ghanaian is smart. Here in Ghana, it will be very difficult to tell anything at all to a youth for him to just believe. They like to be very analytical. They like to have results, to show for people's claims. So here in Ghana, you find the youth holding the government to their words every single day. They are very hardworking. They are extremely hardworking. I mean, there are a couple of people who are an exception to this discussion we are having, but the average Ghanaian would want to find work to do, to make a living and, make ends meet. So you find the youth already always going about their hustles, making a living and making the money.
And what are some of the industries? So if I think of San Francisco in the US, you then talk about Silicon Valley, that's a hub and people make money from that. So you could say typically in that area, the average youth is into IT. So when we come to Ghana, what are some of the industries that the youth participate in for their well-being or to sort of drive the economy? What are some of those levers that drive Ghanaian economy? Suppose what I'm asking is, what drives the economy of Ghana?
It is farming. The economy is driven largely by farming. But as it stands, it is not populated much by the youth in recent past. But now, the youth is beginning to appreciate the need to get active in farming or the agribusiness, which is the big drive for the economy. So now we're having a lot of youth showing interest in studying agriculture, agronomics, etc. So agri, which is the biggest drive of the economy, is not what the youth are really much interested in, but now they are beginning to appreciate it. On the other side, I think people are getting more interested in IT jobs nowadays. So you find a lot of these jobs that involve the use of a phone or a laptop, or people are getting more interested. And then the banking sector, the marketing side, the business side is getting quite attractive for the Ghanaian youth now. Commerce is also very much populated here in Ghana. You see a lot of people get involved in sales. In graduates finish school and want to sell one or two things to make a living. Here in Accra, typically, the biggest drive is commerce or sales. So you see a lot of these young men go into selling phones, selling clothing, selling watches. And now for those of us who are, who appreciate the 21st century drive, they are using phones and applications to sell, to deliver food to people in their offices. So the average Ghanaian youth likes to sell.
Okay, I suppose that explains a lot. And maybe, Patrick, coming back to you, I know that sometime, actually last month, you got the Certificate of Excellence from the Health Legendary Honors Africa 2018, I suppose, award ceremony. What was that about? What were you honored for?
The award was Health Legendary Honors 2018 Africa, what we call HELEH Africa. So I just got an email from them that they want to nominate me for an award, and that they have seen I was contributing to the healthy delivery in Ghana and Africa. It was exciting. I didn't see it coming. I thought it was too early for me to get that big award. But fast forward to today, I have received the award. So it was in recognition of my contribution to basic healthcare delivery. HELEH Africa awards people doing amazing things in health in different genders and categories. So it is coming from my work from Standout Care, the mobile clinics, the community medical outreach programs, the prison medical outreaches we do, and all the things about health.
Okay, I mean, congratulations once again on receiving that.
Thank you.
I do know that people like yourself don't really do this kind of work for the awards, but I also at the same time know that it is nice to receive an award because at least you know that the work that you're doing is not in vain and that there are people out there who are noticing the wonderful work or wonderful contribution that you're making, not only to Ghana, but to Africa as a whole. And perhaps, Patrick, talking about Africa as a whole, you have made some considerable impact in Ghana. Do you think about Africa as a whole, sort of trying to get a sense of how broadly you think about African matters? When you're in Accra and you're going about your day, when you think Africa, what comes to mind? What are some of the things that Patrick Fynn thinks about when it comes to the continent?
When I think about Africa, it is usually a mixed bag of the positive and the negative. And I mean that I think of the capacity Africa can boast of. I think about the goodness the continent is rich with. And then I'm saddened about how it is unable to make very good use of it. There are a lot of amazing things, amazing people in Africa that can change the face of the continent. But you realize the opportunities and the platforms are not available for us. I happen to be Youth Opportunities Country Ambassador for Ghana. And what we do is that we take opportunities to the subscribers so that they can, attend fellowships and scholarships and summits and etc. And then you realize that a lot of the opportunities to build the youth in this continent are not from the continent itself. So you realize it is the Americans and the Russians and the Spanish and the Western authorities who are developing our own Africans. So eventually, we still have a sense of commitment and allegiance to the West. But the continent itself doesn't build its people. The continent itself doesn't make it easier for the people to thrive. But it's a wonderful place to be. I think that Africa is the place anybody should be. However, we do not want to be here because the soil doesn't support ideas. It doesn't build the capacity of the people inside Africa. I think that Africa isn't tapped enough.
So actually, I like asking this question because, you said you're 26. The average age of an African president, and I haven't checked this, but I would guess that is about between 55 and 70, somewhere there. Essentially meaning it's usually an elderly person. I was usually a man. We've had very few female leaders. Then you look at other countries. I can use the example of Estonia, where the president is under 40, Justin Trudeau in Canada, and you can kind of see some of the ideas that those leaders are able to implement. So when we talk about our own continent, in my view, it is people like Patrick Fynn who is supposed to rise to the level of a leader so that we can collectively take our own continent forward. We like to talk about the impact that the West had on Africa, and that is impact that we cannot ignore. But where we are in 2018, I think we are in a position right now as Africans to hold each other's hands and take our own continent forward and have young leaders like yourself to not only lead Ghana, but to also lead our continent, because we do have a beautiful continent.
We do have.
Yeah, it's a matter of us realizing that and doing something about it. But yeah, anyway, I digress. As I said, I'm quite passionate about that question. And Patrick, what are some of the things that you want to still achieve? What would you like your legacy to be?
I want to be that young person who changed things. I like to see a lot of change. I appreciate growth a lot. I like to see things move from the way they were to a new dimension. I'm very much result oriented. So I want to see myself as an authority in health, a person who has advocated for changes in the health delivery of Ghana and Africa. I am first of all working on building my capacity, get some more qualifications, get some good experience, get some more knowledge, and then lead the front. And then let's see some change. I am very passionate about growth. Growth is one of the things I don't like to see things stay the way they are for several years. Things must change. And for me, in a couple of years, I want to be that person who was an agent of change from Ghana through West Africa, through all over Africa.
Wow. Yeah. So I was listening to that and I was picturing sort of seeing your wave having this ripple effect on Ghana, then having a ripple effect across West Africa. But I also in my mind saw you having this impact on Africa, because once again, I truly believe that it is people like yourselves who will take our continent forward. So with that, Patrick, are there any last words that you want to leave with our listeners? Just any maybe last words of encouragement or anything really you want to say in closing?
Yes, I want to say that a lot of people who we admire for the various things they are doing have got stories they are not sharing to us. And I'm talking about I call it the engine room backdoor scenarios. A lot of things happen inside the engine room or backstage or behind closed doors that are very discouraging, that are very challenging to people like myself. But we overcome them some way, somehow, because of the vision we have and because of the imaging we keep giving ourselves. I want to encourage everybody who is on any mission, whether it is personal or it is for a greater good or for the country or whatever the agenda is. When you set out to do something and you are sure it is your best shot and you know it is that thing you really want to do it by all means. I want to repeat that. Do it by all means if you are sure it is the way to go, because it is very common and normal and natural to be resisted at many points of a career or a course. But it is with persistence and diligence that we can move our countries and our various circles the way we want it to be. So let's all be persistent. Let's also believe in our own abilities. People are not confident enough. People want to do things while they look at other people and want to seek help and interventions elsewhere. But there's a certain amount of power that is embedded in everybody. If we realize it, and if we see that we are strong enough and we are powerful enough, everybody can change a small corner, a very small corner. Everybody can change a little place where they find themselves, and eventually there'll be a big bang.
Wow. I mean, as you're talking, it reminded me of this beautiful quote by Martin Luther King Jr., who said that if a man is called to be a street sweeper, he should sweep streets even as Michelangelo painted, or Beethoven composed music, or Shakespeare wrote poetry. He should sweep the streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will pause to say, "Here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well." I love that quote. So sort of as you were talking, I was remembering that quotation. So Patrick, our listeners will probably want to get hold of you, whether it's for your NGO or just to make personal contact. How can we get hold of you? What are some of the media or social media channels you use?
All right. So you can reach me on Facebook. The name is Patrick Fynn. The Fynn is spelled Fynn. You type it on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. You can reach me on social media. My blog name is patrickfynn.com. You can go there and check me out. And then for my NGO, it is called Stand Out Care. Stand Out and then Care. We're all over social media. So you can send me a message on Facebook, add me here, and let's connect.
Beautiful. That is such a beautiful place to stop. So Patrick Fynn from 1000 African Voices, and from myself, Abu Rengwi C, I would like to thank you for making the time to come Talk to us about Standout Care. Talk to us about Ghana, the person that you are, the book that you've written. I do know that your book is available on Amazon. The book, as once again, just to remind our listeners, it is called You Are on Your Own, Inspirations to Self-Drive Your Life to Success by Patrick Fynn Bondzi. So Patrick, from all of us, thank you very much for making the time and for flying Ghana's flag, flying the flag of West Africa and Africa as a whole.
Thank you very much for having me, say.
1000 African Voices.
You've been listening to 1000 African Voices. Please join us next time as we bring you yet another African voice. 1000 African Voices is produced by Aburengwi C. Skanich is our sound engineer, with our head researcher Jones Maleka. The intro soundtrack for the show is by the legendary Salif Keita from his 1995 album Forlorn. The song you're listening to right now is by Chronix, and the title of the song is Legend. For more information, including the contact details of our guests, please visit us on our website www.1000africanvoices.com. You can also subscribe to our show on iTunes by searching for 1000 African Voices. We are also available on Stitcher. You can find us as well on Podbean. The only thing we ask of you is that you subscribe to our show by logging on to 1000africanvoices.com and click the subscribe button. That helps us grow. It helps us keep producing and bringing to you more African voices. Until next time, Kungana Africa, and take care.
I'm quite fine, being an ordinary person doing what's right. Yesterday at the football game, a little girl asked me my name. She said, "Sir, I've seen you before, tell me who are you?" I said, "I am a legend that you never heard of before." Said I am a lion, but you never heard me roar. I am a hero that nobody celebrates. But if one person remembers my name, that means on the ocean of fame I'm an unknown sailor. I'm the percussionist playing with the whalers, the one with the shaker, the mover and shaker. My name wasn't on the front of the paper, but me not cater. Much more than the worker, the work is greater. Creation glorifies creator. So all deeds done are in the name of my maker. I am a legend that you probably never hear about. Words from the lion's mouth. I am a hero that nobody celebrates. But if one person remembers my name, give praise, that means I made a change. Story of my life, ordinary person just like you. If you take a look inside, you see the great things that people do. We're out here changing lives day and night, day in, day out. BBC don't show it, CNN don't show it. He's out.